and welcome to Your Hometown Solutions, where we cover everything community related and real estate related that you need to know. And we've got an exciting guest with us today on Your Hometown Solutions, and in the studios with me is Jonathan Lack, the co-host. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Jean.
Well, we've been talking about all kinds of various community helping hands in our last shows that we've had this last month. But today we're going to be talking about how to basically help yourself, because that's what's important when it comes to financing. But before we introduce our first guest, tell us a little bit about your background so people understand where we're coming from as far as the real estate and law and so forth.
Well, as you said earlier, our goal on the show is to provide information to our listeners for all manner of things. We focus on real estate and your home and how it relates to you personally. And towards that end, I am a transactional real estate attorney, so I can help you buy and sell a home as an attorney, but also am a real estate broker with Waterview Realty Services. So again, we can provide support in finding or selling your home. And lastly, I have Waterview Title Services, which would be the closing agent to assist you with the purchase and sale of a home. We do also assist with residential and commercial and business practice as well. So you can reach Waterview Realty at waterviewre.com and my law office of Lack & Lack Chartered at lacklaw.com. That's LACKLAW.com.
And also, we have a website. We have a lot of our guests' information on our website at www.yourhometownsolutions.com. And we like to say we're kind of akin to HGTV shows in some ways, because we try to talk about various things you can do with your property or investments, or kind of Angie's List meets the Chamber of Commerce, I guess, is what we're all about. We want to make sure you know about some of the things that are out there that might assist you. And basically gift giving. We have had some of our charity groups on in the last couple of weeks. We want to talk about refinancing, about getting your home sold or buying. But today we have an interesting guest that's going to be talking about your future and your financial future. Jonathan, would you like to introduce our new guest?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure. As you say, we talk about all these different ways to help others and to help the community. It is very important that you start by helping yourself. Having a strong foundation for yourself, it enables you to then become charitable. It's hard to be charitable when you're struggling on your own.
And what do they say on the airplane when the oxygen mask comes down?
Yes,
you got to put it on yourself first before you can help someone else, right?
Exactly. And so it's our pleasure to have in the studio with us today Illene Davis, who's a certified financial planner and can provide a great deal of information. She also has written a book, Wealthy by Choice, Choosing Your Way to a Wealthier Future. And it's all about investing both in yourself and learning how to properly invest. And with that, I will say, welcome, Illene. Thank you for being on the show. And please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Actually, you've done a pretty good job with the current. I've been a certified financial planner since 1984. Got my securities license in '82, and at the time, my goal was to really help people reach their financial potential. I started investing when I was 18, so I'm almost at the point that I've been investing for 50 years, which is pretty frightening. I've been through all the ups and downs of the market, and really just want to help people understand how easy it is to build wealth if they'll take the time to learn.
I noticed you have a little bio on, I guess it's a website called Live Frugally. Is that it? Or
no,
that was the title of it, but you were on.
No, I've been in, thanks to you, Jean, when you introduced me to Help a Reporter, I've responded to a number of Help a Reporter requests, and I've been interviewed. And one of the funnier ones was, I was on one, they'd asked for people who had accumulated $1 million, and you had to actually send them statements that showed that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know where it was appearing. And suddenly my boyfriend gets a phone call from his son in California that says, "Dad, Eileen's on the front page of Yahoo."
There you go. And then it talks about, is this the one that I'm looking at here, Live Frugally?
I'm not sure, because I've been in several, and I'm not sure which one that one was.
This one is saying how you, at the age of 37, with roughly $100,000, I guess, in financial assets, grew that into $1 million.
I think that was that one then.
Mm-hmm. So that's how you came up with the book, based on what you did years ago?
Well, the book actually came about, it's 1 year and 35 years and 50 years in the making. I've been helping people save money I can go back to before I was even a broker, of just helping a friend who couldn't afford tires for her car. And I said, she was going out to lunch every day. And I said, well, if you'd cut that to 2 days a week and bring your lunch. And so through the years that I've been helping clients build wealth, I just look at their budget and help them come up with ways that are fun, easy to save money. I mean, it can be as little, I talk about crock-pot parties. I talk about using leftovers. I shop pretty much 90% of my clothing comes from some sort of thrift store. And just looking at, I've lived that life, and the book is full of those kind of stories that I've been telling clients for years that make it where they can really apply. It's not just how to think rich or how to, it's saying, if you did this thing and you save $500 a year, 20 years from now, if you invested it, here's how much income you could get from it. So it's really getting it down to the little everyday choices that you make in life. And that's why it's called Wealthy by Choice.
And it's all about investments for the long term.
Yes.
Because people think, okay, I want to buy a stock and I want to roll it over, and as soon as it goes high and I want to sell. But it's all about leaving it in there. Isn't there some kind of a formula that it's 15 years or 20 years and it doubles if you don't mess with it? Or
excellent.
Okay.
What you're thinking, what you're looking at, it's called the Rule of 72.
Okay.
And the Rule of 72 says if you take the interest rate that you're earning on your investments and divide it into 72, it tells you how many years it will take for that to double. Works with inflation, by the way, too. So if you've got somebody that is looking at 20 years of retirement, 25 years of retirement, if they expect inflation to be 3%, 3 into 72 is 24, so their cost of living would double during that period of time, which is one of the things that catches a lot of retirees because their Social Security doesn't go up that fast, their pension doesn't go up that fast. But basically, interesting statistic I found in Barron's, in the past 144 years, which is a pretty long time.
We like statistics.
144 years, I think it was through 2014, that if you looked at a diversified portfolio of stocks, for a 5-year, for moving 5-year, rolling 5-year periods, there were 16 5-year periods that a diversified portfolio had lost money. You get to 10 years, it drops to 4 10-year periods through that whole 144-year period. You get to 15, 20, 30, 0. There hasn't been, in the last 144 years, there hasn't been a 15, 20, or 30-year period of time that a diversified portfolio has lost money. Where most people go wrong is the emotions. They get caught up. They don't think what they're doing. They react to what's going on, and they react to external. And, a good example of that was 2008. I had a client that was retired. Her money dropped down a whole lot. And she called, needless to say, very concerned. And I said, look, the damage is already done. The line they use is don't catch a falling knife. The damage is already done. I said, let's work out a plan. I said, because what I will ask you, I said, when you go out to eat, can you just walk into a restaurant? There's nobody there. Well, no. Okay, if you look at hotels, can you just pick up anywhere you want to go and pick up a room for next to nothing because nobody's using it? When you look, most people, life just goes on. It's that headlines every day that scares a lot of people, and they don't look beyond today. They don't look at the fact that we've been going through this for several hundred years, and it's probably going to continue with the ups and downs.
Well, I think what happened, too, back in that 2007, 8, 9, 10, 3, 4, 5 years that we had there, a lot of people were stuck in an unusual situation where they were too young to collect Social Security. They lost their job, and now they need funds from somewhere. So they've had to liquidate when they probably shouldn't. The only time they could, the only thing they had was their portfolio. And so they took a hit. You got penalties and everything else. But when you're looking at nothing and something over here, so then their whole plan, their whole game plan went up in smoke. So we can start. We can
absolutely
help.
True.
We can get them back on track at this point, a little bit. Anyway.
And you're exactly right. Is where it really hurt were retirees because they had planned their whole spending, the retirement spending level of income around that 2007 peak. But to go back. And again, this is where emergency funds come in. that when what I tell clients, when you're getting ready to retire, you need to have 3 years of living expenses above and beyond. If you have Social Security and pension, it's that gap. If you're not going to be eligible for it, then you need to have 3 years of living expenses in a money market fund that doesn't go up and down, because the probability of losing money diminishes so much. Excuse me. Plus, if you, with your investments, instead of having to sell them at a loss, the dividends can keep. Excuse me. The dividends can keep.
Stop tape.
Sorry.
That's all right. And if you have to cough, pull over here. Okay. Let's pick it up from Jeff. Can you give us a pickup?
Dividends.
Your loss of dividends. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Basically, what you can, with the dividends, instead of having to sell at a loss with their investment, the dividends can keep pouring into that 3-year fund. And so they don't have to sell at a loss. A lot of it was that people just assumed the market was going to keep going up, so they had nothing in savings. So when the market came down, they had no time to plan. They were really forced into selling right after a 30-40% drop. And that affected a lot of people. And so, again, it goes back to whether you're getting ready to retire or you're years from retirement, you need to have 6 months to a year in emergency funds. And if you don't have that, you're going to end up, and too often what happens is if they don't have those most investors do have emergency funds because they've learned that through, if they're working with an advisor, they've got money set aside, or at least they have something to fall back on. The problem for many people is they have, latest numbers I just saw were 40%, I think it's 40% of American households as of this year or last year couldn't come up with $500 in an emergency.
I know, I saw that too. It's sad that people are so limited on having any kind of an emergency fund.
And add to that I think it's 30% of people 55 and older, so you're nearing retirement, have no money saved for retirement. And 33% of people, I do a lot with statistics, but 33% of people on Social Security, they get 90% of their income from Social Security. So that's 1 out of every 3 people on Social Security has no other money. And when you start looking, if they're dependent on that check, paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, all it takes is one emergency, one unexpected expense, and they're behind the 8 ball moving forward.
Well, I see, and as you're speaking, I'm listening and thinking, and my mind is racing to really 3 or 4 different clients, if you will. You've got the people who are just starting out. How do you recommend somebody, a young person? Then you got somebody in the 30s, maybe just starting with a family. Then you got somebody in the 50s who's maybe kids are going off to college now and they're starting to think about retirement. And then, of course, you got the retirement folks. That's kind of how I'm breaking it up in my brain.
Okay.
And any suggestions kind of for each of those, or are they in fact different?
They're different or the same depending on where they are as far as what they've got accumulated. Okay,
let's assume they're starting off. So let's start with the young'uns.
Okay. Basically, the young ones, because time is their best friend, I call it the retirement nest egg starter kit.
And don't rely on Social Security. Let's start with that.
Right. Yeah. I don't even count on Social Security, but I start with what I call the retirement nest egg starter kit. And what that is, it literally is a piece of paper that has the numbers 1 through 60. And you cut that out and it's in the book, and you put that on a empty 2-liter soda bottle. Why an empty 2-liter soda bottle? A, it's plastic so you can cut it open in a real emergency. B, it's clear so you can see the money building in there. And then my recommendation is every day put a $5, not a check, not coins because it won't fit. Put a $5 bill in.
Not an IOU.
Yeah, not an IOU. Put a $5 bill in. If you can't do $5, at least do $1, and it gets you thinking about it. And if you'll do that, what you'll find is in 2 months, you've got enough money to start, where I start with clients with as little as $100 a month. You can start a systematic long-term investment plan, knowing you can afford it. And not only that, with the $300 after the 2 months, you've got the $100 for the first month. You've got the $100 for the next month when you forget it's going to hit your checking account and come out. And you've got $100 that can go in to start building that emergency fund. Someone in their 30s, again, they've got some time for it to go, but in a lot of cases, by the time they're in their 30s, they've gotten debt. They've built, they bought things. If they haven't saved anything, I'd lay you money that most of them are living beyond their means and have debt. And so the approach with that, again, a chapter in the book, is 70-20-10, where you live on 70% of your income. You use 20% of your income to start paying off your debt, and there's a system I use to try to be it most efficiently. And then you always save 10%. It's a concept I got in The Richest Man in Babylon, which anyone listening, I think my book is good, but if you have to read only one book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which has been around since 1926, is one of the best books. It's just full of parables to think about it. And once you read that, then I think you'll find my book can give you actual tools and ideas to build wealth.
Well, before we go into the next step, while we're talking about this, your book is called Wealth by Choice.
Wealthy by Choice.
By Choice.
Choosing your way to a wealthier future.
Where can they buy that book?
It's available through tablet publications, through the choosingwealth.com website, which I've also, if you go there, you'll see a calculator and webinars that I've helped develop. It's available through Amazon, and locally, since part of this is about helping local organizations, We Venture is going to have them. I'm working with several organizations to have the book available where a percentage of the sales will go to a nonprofit organization. I'm working with Rotary in Titusville. Just talked to the president of the Titusville Chamber, and Marcia said we could put the books there. So on a local basis, I'm working at getting, it's also at the library. For someone who doesn't have the money yet to start and wants to look, there's copies in the library.
Wealthy by Choice. You can always Google search it, or we're going to give out your contact. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when we talk about that, people like to go and search right while they're hearing it on the radio.
If they go to the library card catalog, they can look under just, if you put Wealthy, I think it's the second or third one down.
Okay. So we left off
up to 40.
Yeah.
Okay. 40s, you're starting to get to the point that if you don't get your butt in gear, you're going to regret it. You've got maybe 20, 25 years to really build wealth to finance the following 20 to 40 years. And so you're starting to run out of time. Again, if with 40, you probably have kids, they're into their teens. College, all of those costs. And again, it goes back to, regardless of age, start with the $5 a day. It's a visual, easy way to start.
That's a Starbucks coffee.
Right. But what you want to look at is to seriously look at, when you hit the 40, the 50, is to seriously look at your spending plan. Don't call it a budget. Look at where your money goes. You have money coming in and you have money going out. Where is that money going? And is there any one thing in there, even if you change it month to month, that you can cut out or reduce down or find a less expensive way to do it?
And that's why sometimes a third person like yourself can set with someone's budget, because sometimes you're looking at your own budget, not realizing that, I really don't need to have 300 channels on my cable TV. I don't watch 300 channels, and that would maybe cut out $25 a month right there.
And that's exactly what I do with it. And one of the things is, the hardest thing for many people is to say no to their friends. And if you want to build wealth, and this is one of the things I go with, one of the major choices that you've got in life, if you want to change your path from poverty to wealth,
prosperity.
Prosperity. Thank you. Poverty to prosperity is
a good title.
Is that you probably have to really look at who your friends are, and you have to be willing to say no and find friends that have common goals.
Right.
Because too much of our spending is not because we need something or even want something. We just don't want to disappoint somebody that we consider a friend. And my politically incorrect, what I tell people is, think 20 to 30 years from now, when you're retired, are you even going to remember that person? Yes, I know it sounds really nasty, but we watch people that do things not for their own benefit, but because they want somebody else to like them. And if that's what it takes, if giving up your financial freedom in the future is what it takes to have somebody like you, you need to evaluate what's really important to you and your family. The other thing I tell clients is, if they're married and the spouse is on the other side, I say, just blame me. I said, just tell him my financial planner told me.
Usually you have that one is a spender and one's a saver.
Right, exactly.
And they're fighting about that, where as a third-party advisor, you can solve a lot of their problems without somebody being the bad guy.
Well, I take on being the bad guy.
Yes, that's
and
what
that I said, just blame me. And once you start seeing, Eileen's, believe me, there's a lot of things. Well, we want to get this pool. I said, okay, let's look at what that's going to do to your financial future. Or we want to buy a new car. What's that going to do to your financial future? I mean, I love the fact that Ralph was doing, used cars, because if you look at how much you can build wealth by buying used cars and keeping them until they die.
That was our show from last week, Ralph Perone. It's doing some great charity events with his used cars.
Yeah.
So people that didn't hear that show knows what we're talking about.
Okay, sorry about that. And then if we start looking at 50 and 60, it's interesting. I had a client that came to me at 52. He had a total of $7,000 to his name. He had just gotten divorced. He made a commitment. He had a desire to go and paint. And so he made a commitment. He literally saved 30% of his income. And he ended up marrying a woman who was good about saving too. But by the 10 years later, when he got a buyout he was at the Space Center, when he got a buyout, he had accumulated over $250,000. And that was literally starting from nothing at 50. 60, the sad part is if somebody has no money saved and they are in their 60s, their only real option is most likely going to be to keep working as long as they're possibly able. And the problem with that is that more and more, there was just an article on that people say, well, I'll work forever. And I said, that may not be an option because companies aren't necessarily hiring older people.
Yeah, we see that. Unfortunately, I work with a lot of clients, again, in the law office. I do a lot, mostly it's transactional real estate, but I do some estate planning work as well. And we have people come in or I'm dealing with people in distressed property situations where they're older folks and they've been laid off of their job and they're 100% capable, high quality workers, but they can't find a job. It's just the market is not there for an older person when there's younger people who come along either cheaper, or it's not always about the money even. It's about just the perceived longevity in the position or whatnot. So it is any recommendations for those folks?
Absolutely. One and needless to say, I've had clients that face that. One of the things that we need to recognize is the work environment is changing. And especially with things like the Obamacare taxes that are making it very difficult. I was just talking with my accountant actually about that. Is the companies aren't going beyond 49 employees because then they pick up that tax. This way they can avoid the penalties.
People are only working 30 hours instead of 40, so they don't have the benefits. Yes.
Right. The $15 an hour minimum wage. I was meeting a friend at McDonald's. They had 4 of those kiosks that you just punch in your order. But to answer your question, John, is one of the things that I ask clients that are in that position to do, because they do. You're right. They do have skills, and they have skills that are valuable, but a lot of companies no longer need a lot of those skills 40 hours a week, so they're not going to hire somebody and pay them 40 hours a week. So what I recommend they do is basically become You Inc. They become their own business. They create a brochure. Here are the skills that I have to offer, and they market themselves to multiple companies. If they can find 5 businesses that need them 1 day a week, or 30 businesses that need them to come in 1 day a month, they have full-time income without having a full-time job. More importantly, they're actually at less risk of financial problems because instead of having one, what I was talking about,
diversified portfolio.
Exactly.
Exactly.
As the independent contractor as opposed to an employer.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that you look at is when you only have, going back to the diversified portfolio, if you only have one customer, which is when you have a job, if that customer no longer wants you to provide that service, you've lost them. You've lost all your income. Whereas if you have 5 different businesses that you're working for, if one of them can't afford you, or has to let you go, you still have income from 4, and it buys you time to find that other. And for some, if they're really good and they're good at marketing rather than not just at the work, but good at marketing, they may find as they get extra work that they can't do, then they can bring in other people to do that. And I've had clients that started out, offering a service and they got overloaded because they were very good. Mm-hmm. They brought in friends that had comparable skills and they got a percentage of what that person earned. So, there's a lot of opportunities, but I think part of it is people have to stop looking and saying, I need a job. What they need is work. And what companies have done, while they may have eliminated jobs, the work still needs to be done. And so if you can provide that service that will fulfill the need, then they're going to hire somebody. Now, you may have to, and what I've told clients especially, some of this is not real nice, but it's reality, is if you go back when in 94, 95, when there was a cutback at the space program back then, is I talked to business owners in the area, small business owners, and they told me, they said, we get somebody that has most of their career at the Space Center, we just throw it because we throw it in the circular file in the trash can, basically, because they don't understand what it takes to work in a small business. We don't have multiple layers that can take care of stuff.
Or you do one job all the time. When you're in a small business, you have to wear 4 or 5 hats sometimes.
Exactly. And so what I always tell them is, I said, if you're not working anyway, why not offer a company a chance to interview you over 2 weeks to see what you can do? So that you offer, I will come to work for you for a week and show you what I'm capable of doing. Because actually a lot of those people do have skills well beyond just their narrow job, but that's not what they allow them to do at the Space Center. So it gives them a chance to show their work ethic, that they show up, that they're willing to volunteer to do work. And that's what small businesses have to have. They can't have somebody that can only do one thing. Right. They need somebody that if somebody's out sick, that they can at least pick up that, or most companies are lean and mean today. They have one missing and somebody can't pick up that work, that company is shut down for the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you're talking about is internships, and we don't see enough of that. I have done that in my office over the years occasionally, where I may not have an immediate need for a position, or somebody reaches out to me, and we go ahead and say, you know what, if you want to intern for a period of time and we'll see if it works. And on multiple occasions, I've ended up ultimately hiring the person who interned for a little bit. They proved that they did have a long-term worth to me. And sometimes they just want that experience so that they can now go out and look for the full-time, full-paying job, but can say, look, I have experience because I've interned here and have learned the skills. Again, actually, I'm not even talking about younger folks, although they had been younger rather than older, but the same thing can apply. That way of getting in the door is, by offering your services as an intern, say, look, let me show you what I'm worth. I think that's an excellent advice.
Absolutely true. And that's what people need to recognize is the 40-hour a week, getting paid for 40 hours a week, getting all the benefits and stuff like that. They're in very, very large companies that may still survive. Beyond that, it's different.
We really appreciate you being on the show, Illene Davis. You have hours of wealth of information. Oh, look at how I put wealth in there. Hours of a wealth of information about wealth. And people need to know where they're at, where they're going, and have someone to help them with their roadmap. Please give out your information again on how they could contact you, and perhaps, again, mention your book. And we just have a couple moments left, but talk about going to your website. You've created a special calculator that people can try out. I know that gives you a lot of information to do in the next 30 or 45 seconds, but go.
Office phone number, 321-631-1127. I'm happy to send you out my information. Just call and ask. The website that I mentioned is www.choosingwealth.com. Watch the webinars. You'll learn a lot. If you want to try the calculator, go to the store tab, and you can try it out for free for a couple days.
What does that calculator help you do? Find your wealth and how many years and so forth?
It does almost every kind of financial calculation dealing with personal finance that you could probably
go
think
there
of.
And visit it and find out more about that. Jonathan, go ahead and give out your information as well.
Well, you can reach me at Lack and Lack Chartered, which on the website is www.lacklaw.com. That's LACKLAW.com, or by phone, area code 321-953-5115.
As you can see, we like to have guests on the show that have the heart of a teacher that can explain things, because there's people out there to help you no matter what your need is, whether it's financial, real estate, service, any kind of services. We try to bring everything to the forefront on helping our community. So come back next week. We'll have another guest explaining how you can benefit from the community services out there. Thank you again, Illene Davis.
Thank you.
And Jonathan Lack, as always. And stay tuned for our next show next Monday. And this is Jean Newell saying bye for now.